Welcome back to Let's Play Train Simulator 2013 Part 2. This episode, we will be traveling from Victorville to San Bernardino down through the Cajon Pass. We are driving in, this is a Union Pacific GE engine, and we are transporting some cement down in what is considered to be one of the heaviest trains to traverse the pass. So this is a good way to demonstrate the dynamic brakes, because you definitely need to use them in order to pass this route. And I'll show you how that works when we get there. I may not record this whole thing because this is a very long scenario, so I may cut out some of the more mundane parts and only cut the video in when something important happens to kind of explain what's going on. And without further ado, let's get this train moving. So we'll go back, show you how long this is too. If you switch between the back of the train and the front of the train, you can see that it does have a good amount of length to it. It's still not as long as a train you'd find in the Midwest, but you can see how long it is down here. For a train in this area, this is very long. So first things first is you set your headlights on, you set your reverser forward, you let off your brakes, you set a little bit of throttle, 2 quick horns, and you let the train slowly build speed with 1 notch of throttle. I believe this is the same exact loco from the first part, but the backup loco is actually, let me show you that again, is a different model. I think that's an EMD. I don't know my train models, but I think that's an EMD, I'm not sure. The one at the back is is also a GE. You can tell it's a GE because it has these wings sticking out the side. That's a good way to tell difference. Might be coming through kind of quiet. Try to turn that up a little bit. So we're getting up to our 15-mile-an-hour speed limit as we go through Victorville here. One thing I didn't do was I didn't check sidings, but it looks like all of our switches are set correctly, so we're good to go, and that should take us all the way to the end of the scenario. So this one doesn't make you set the switches, but we are in the yard, so we gotta just maintain that restricted yard speed of 15 miles an hour. I'm recording this kind of late at night, so I'm a little tired, so talking a little quietly. That's a little history of this area. This is downtown Victorville. That's State Route Highway 18 right there going by, and that's downtown Victorville, and that's also Route 66, which makes a left turn somewhere around there and continues on in. I didn't model that part of it, but Route 66 through Old Town Victorville. And just as a point of entertainment, there's a bridge that runs alongside this road here, Truss Bridge, and that the Foo Fighters recorded their supplemental music video to times like these. Another little tidbit here. This is what they call a dwarf signal, and it was green over red when we passed it, so it was clear. But they put the dwarf signals at these exits of the yard or wherever there's a merge of the track, just to kind of to indicate that it's clear to enter the track. And then here's a speed limit sign of 35, so as soon as we pass track speed limit sign 35, we can get up to speed and get on our way. this is a very long train, so it's going to take a little while to get past it. There's another guy going by. Another twin engine. I should note that when you do have multiple locomotives on a consist, multiple engines on a train, all of those engines power when you do apply throttle. They're all acting in concert. They're all applying thrust, I guess. They're all applying power to all three, or however many engines are in the consist. All of them are applying that power. simultaneously. So one throttle setting is coupled to all the others in the terrain. I don't know how that works in real life. I guess there's some kind of a linkage that runs between the cars through the coupling and actually commands power in the other cars, but it's kind of cool. That's why you see multiple engines, because you just need that many to move the consist, especially in a case like this where you got heavy concrete. You see I'm putting 63% power just to maintain speed of a 1.5% grade. This part of the high desert's a little bit more going on. This is actually where most of the population is centered around this Victorville area. Kind of passing in the through the east side of the high desert. Victorville is on both sides, but further to the left side is the town of Apple Valley, one of only a handful of corporate limits that are actually referred to as towns in California. Most are too big to be called towns or too small, so they're either villages or cities, obviously. those unfamiliar with the area, which is most of you, this is really what this part of the desert looks like. There are a lot of plants, mostly these shrub-looking things, which are annoying because they have needles and they get on your carpet. They're a mess. And random trees just spread around. So it's kind of a fake desert, just like I said. We got more rain today in real life. Like, people were getting excited about it. I turned on these labels, so when you see like a label like that, it just means there's a train coming. So I just kind of want to be familiar with where I am. Like, you pass a station, you'll see that label come up. I might just record this whole thing. We'll see. I believe that bridge we just went under back there was Bear Valley Road, which puts us into the city of Hesperia, home of Peach's Gentleman's Club. Don't go there. This one isn't worth speeding up for. Put it to 50-ish, just to... You get a 65 and then you get a 55 right after it. So you can't even accelerate in time to make it worth it. And just keep it right here. we are now at the summit, and we are about to transition into the downhill section of the Cajon Pass. So what we're going to do is, again, the controls for dynamic brakes is this lever here, and it is the caret keys on the keyboard, greater than and less than sign on the keyboard. So first thing you want to do is you got to set it here to setup, and it's about 15, 18, 20%, and you'll hear it spool up in the background. Now they got the audio wrong in this particular model. It's kind of a cheap model, so what you're going to hear is you're going to hear the audio actually undulate between high and low, and that's actually incorrect. It should just maintain this pitch, but you'll hear it'll actually drop off. Maybe this one is correct. Well, it'll drop off, and it's not supposed to do that. So we actually are already. You see, we're coming around the hill here, and you get a nice view out there of down into the Cajon Pass. It's quite a sight to see in real life. Here you don't have as can't see as far, but that's it. In fact, you can see a couple lights down there. I think those are other trains coming up the track down there. The track's actually going to split apart down here. Part of it's going to diverge that way, and the rest of it's going to be coming this way. So this first section is not that steep going down. It'll kind of just bleed off slowly here. We'll check our brakes. Everything's off, so yeah, we're slowing down a little more than I expected, but you can see it's going to start getting steep here. And so we're going to pick up some speed, and we do have a 30-mile-an-hour control coming up here. Keep an eye on the landscaping around here too. For the next over the course of the next half hour or so, you're going to see this change from this deserty landscape into a green landscape. And here comes that 30-mile-an-hour warning sign. So basically all we're going to really do is just coast all the way down into San Bernardino. We'll just kind of maintain our speed here without letting it creep up. We'll put some dynamic braking in to keep us below 30. You don't need too much, but in a heavy train like this, it may start to pick up a lot of speed. Again, what this system's doing is it's not really applying any physical friction to the wheels. It's actually magnetically slowing down the wheels through the generation of electricity. It's just the power generated equals moving object, subtracting the force, kind of equation. And the output of the slowdown is heat, and that heat is basically vented out this exhaust duct here. And as you can see, I am getting way too fast, so I'm going to apply brakes here. That caught me off guard, so we're going to go up all the way to a 5 here. I'm going to crank it all the way up because we got to get slowed down. Okay, now we can start pulling this off. One thing that is incorrect right now is that this should be registering a negative amperage, and it's not. And this, it just doesn't happen to measure this the output of the. I think the reason why it's doing that is because this isn't a hybrid. A lot of electric trains will apply a dynamic brake at the same time as your standard friction brake, and you'll actually get an energy registered output from that, which actually powers the train's onboard systems, and you'll see that as an amperage down here. But this is a rheostatic system, which means that all of the energy generated goes to heat, so you don't get a negative output, which is actually a gained output. So it's all wasted and turned into heat, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's fine because it's saving your brakes from your actual brakes from wearing out. So that's really all it is. So we'll just kind of hold here as we go down at a reasonable pace. You're supposed to do this very deliberately. You see any train in the Cajon Pass as you're driving down Interstate 15, they are crawling like 5-10 miles an hour. But If I did that, it would take forever. You can see we're at 2.1 grade, which is 2 feet every 100 feet. That's pretty steep, especially for a heavy train. Another thing that you learn in the real world is that if you're ever not applying throttle, you're supposed to have your reverser set at 0, because that'll disconnect the fuel system and you won't be wasting fuel other than to keep the engines at idle. You won't be feeding fuel in. I don't know how that system works exactly, but it said that you should reverser 0. And a couple little cut-throughs, little cut-through tunnels here through the rocks on the way down. This Cajon Pass is actually a very common, very well-known commute. What happens is in this area, a lot of people migrated or moved up to the high desert because it was a new growing area, heavily expanding area where you could get a much nicer house for much cheaper cost, and it was also a military town with the George Air Force Base back 20 years ago. And I wasn't here to see any of that. I've only lived here about 2 years, and back then it was a really thriving, nice way to get away from Los Angeles, out of Southern California, but still be close enough where you're not completely getting away from it. And the only problem is that it's a desert and it gets really, really hot in the summer and really, really cold in the winter. You have highs in the summer of around 100 to 110 almost on a daily basis. And then in the winter, in the dead of the winter, you still get it. You still get up to like 60 during the day, but at night you could have wind chills below 0 if it's bad enough. Like a standstill, windless temperature of 20 degrees for weeks straight. Below freezing. It's just how it is, and it's also windy. You can get 40-mile-hour winds basically all the time. And like I said before, it'll still rain too, so it's kind of a cheating desert, and it's a lot different than the environment down the hill. The environment down the hill is just like anything else closer to LA, where you have temperate conditions that are usually almost always near 70 degrees, 70 to 80 degrees. Even in the winter, it won't drop much below 60. Down there, drop much below 70. It's really constant throughout the whole year. That's why there's so many people down there. So a lot of people do is they chose to live in the high desert because it's cheaper housing, much cheaper than it is down in LA, and easier to, bigger. You have a bigger property, more bang for your buck, and then you'd work. More of the jobs were down in San Bernardino or Ontario or Rancho Cucamonga. People would go down there, and that's where they get the job. But now after the Air Force Base closed, the high desert became kind of a more shoddy area, kind of risky. A lot of homeless, or not really homeless, but not as well off people moved up there, and it's really strange because it's like a very it's a very like sub-rural area, like farm style country homes, just in large concentrations, and just a lot of people who just have had an unfortunate upbringing living in the area, and there's a pretty significant amount of crime. I mean, I haven't witnessed anything really serious myself in my 2 years here, but you look and ask anyone and they say it's pretty bad. So it's kind of a bad area to live in now if you're not really careful about like where you research where to live and everything. And I'm dragging this out way longer than I need to be for a let's play of a video game, but essentially what a lot of people do is they'll escape down the hill to get out of the desert because they can't stand it and they need to just get away. So this is basically what we're doing right now with this train, is taking it out of the desert and driving it down the hill, which is literally what the locals call the Cajon Pass, is driving down the hill. So that's where we're headed. I actually live in the high desert and work in the high desert, which is... I just one of the brave ones that I don't want to deal with a long commute. Imagine having to basically having to drive the entire length of this video twice a day, one in each direction. It takes about 45 to 55 minutes each direction if there's no traffic, because, you know, in a car you go up to 70 miles an hour on the freeway. And so this scenario is obviously taking longer than that because trains don't go as fast. But I still wouldn't want to drive this every day. And in the winter, this part of the freeway that runs through here, you get up to like 4,000 feet altitude, and all the clouds are basically, all the weather patterns that come from LA are basically slamming up into the mountains and coming to a dead halt. So any precipitation or anything kind of concentrates itself in the mountains. So that includes snow. It's not like California doesn't get snow, Southern California especially even. And all the snow kind of packs itself up into this Cajon Pass, and it can get so bad that they actually shut the freeway down entirely, and there's absolutely no way to get back down the hill or traverse into the, you know, back and forth without going this really crazy roundabout way that you're not even allowed to go unless you actually literally strap chains to your tires. It's like they don't have snowplows up there because they can't get up there because the roads are too hilly. So you have to put chains on your tires and actually drive through the snow with these chains on your tires and get through it. I've never had to do that yet, but that's another reason why I don't think that living and working in the same area without having to do this hill every day is a good idea. But I digress, because this is a train simulator, not a life of how to live in the high desert simulator. So we might be able to let off on the dynamic brake here since we're coming up to a speed relief, just to make this go a little quicker. As you see, we still have 20 miles of this agony left to go. I don't get a front view there. I can kind of see what's going on. It looks cloudy. I think that sky's supposed to be blue. So there's the 35, but remember, we can't actually increase speed until the back of the train is past the 35. Let up a little. Keep it in the setup area. It's going to pick up speed. Yeah, the sound is actually doing what it's supposed to do this time. I'm kind of surprised. It's maintaining its pitch instead of dropping off, which it'll do once you turn off the dynamic brake. So here's in one of those train signals where there's green on red and there's only one track. That track is a different line altogether. So it's kind of like, why are they showing two signals when there's only one track? It's because coming up here is where there's a transfer to the other track once it joins you. So that's kind of the header to warn you as to what you would need to do if that track is going to transfer. Same thing with a sign like this where you have an arrow pointing. It's giving you the speed, track speed for the track that heads in that direction. So if you were to transfer right, you would have to slow down to 15. You can see some vehicles coming along here. That is a Interstate 15. There's a 45, but it's quickly followed by another 35, so we won't really even worry about it. And the other track is rejoining on the left. Take a little bit of the brakes off. basically in the home stretch now. The mountains are all behind us, and we're just kind of finishing this coasting process down towards our destination. Signal might show something different. Yes, it is. It is a flashing yellow with a red, which is a approach limited signal. And the approach limited signal, got to sound my horn there. Anyway, approach limited signal does not mean that the next signal is going to be a stop. It just means that the next signal could be something other than clear or approach limited. And if it is, then you were warned ahead of time and that your train should be going at a speed of 40 miles an hour or less. But we have a long stretch ahead of us without a signal, so that's really a very preliminary alert to get you ready. This stage we can kind of just keep everything as we have been, and if we do see that the next signal is an approach signal, then we will simply slow down to 40 before we hit it, and we should be fine. I actually am going to try to coast all the way in. Should be able to get all the way there without having to reverse forward and apply more power. We should be able to get there entirely by coasting. A sign that says the passenger speed is up to 70. I'm getting a little fast. Are leveling out here, so we can set the dynamics to set up. See if I timed that right. So that signal's coming up here. Let's see what it is. Can't see it yet. I bet it's going to be something not good. If it is, then, well, I broke the rule, but whatever. Yeah, it is going to be a switch red on top of yellow, which is a approach medium, which means we need to get the speed down immediately. 3, 2, 1, 40. Just made it, and we need to decrease all the way to 30. So we'll do that. And there we go. So we're at 30. We can let go of the dynamic brake and control braking manually all the way in. And you see the sound of that goes away. We're going to shift tracks here. Again, that red on top of yellow was a diverging approach signal. Oh shoot. Diverging approach signal, which means that the next signal is that the track is going to diverge. That's what the red on top means, and the yellow means how slow do you have to go. And the solid yellow is 30 miles an hour, so you had to go 30 miles an hour before the track switched, which we did. So we did it just the right way we were supposed to. We'll coast the rest of the way in at 30. Unless you get a different signal indicating otherwise. I think that's how that works. Yeah, you have to go at the designated speed until you approach the next signal, and it shows the clear indication. So you gotta go 30 all the way in on this one. Never a bad idea. Nothing wrong with going slow. We're going to have to slow to 15 here. I wonder how that plans on telling us. I think it's going to give us a red on top of flashing red. I think that's what it'll tell us. Let's see if that's what it is. Should be a red on top of flashing red. That's exactly what it is. See, once you kind of understand how the system works, you can get the hang of it. So a red on top of flashing red. We're off of dynamics. When we switch back to the train brake now, is basically slow down to 15 as soon as you see it. You don't even have to wait to pass it. Just slow down to 15 as soon as you see that signal, because that means that the next thing that's going to happen after that signal is the track's going to diverge, and it's telling you 15. So that's exactly what's going to happen here. So see, our speed limit is already 15 even before we hit the sign, and it had already been showing 15. So it says we need to come to siding 11, and that we need to actually check the sidings. So this is kind of annoying, but we're stopping at yard 11, which means we actually do have to confirm that we're stopping at yard 11. And there's one here that's wrong, so switch it to that, and now we're in the yard 11, and should be good. All right. That brake off because we're going really slow now. The right place. enough momentum to get the entire train in. Let's see, I think we do. Man, we got plenty. What you do is you can sound your bell as you're coming in. Not completely necessary, but good thing to do. That's all she wrote. Thanks for enduring another long Let's Play Train Simulator video. Next time we will try something completely different. Catch you then.